It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, hello. Welcome to the Opperman Report. I am your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting through my website, emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me directly at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. You notice, by the way, this week I wasn't shocked that I was on the air. Like the past couple of weeks, I've been kind of a little distracted. Not today. I'm with you. We had a big week this week, and I'm here for you. If you like our show, be sure and check out our Patreon, Opperman Report Patreon. You go there. This week, I put out a lot of free content. We put out the indictment, of course, the historic indictment of Mr. Trump, as he's called in court, as he's known in criminal court. Mr. Trump, not Mr. President, Mr. Trump. It's just Mr. Trump. And also, too, it was breaking. Oh, my goodness. You thought the memo, remember they released the memo, you thought the memo was going to be a big deal. The Burnham Report, the Durham Report. It was Durham. That's what it was. The Durham Report. Forget the Durham Report. Forget the memo. Forget all that. Now they've got the smoking gun. It's right there in their hot little hands. They've got the smoking gun. Devon Archer. I have the full transcript, by the way. Okay, good old Ed Opperman was snookered this week because the House Republicans put out a edited version of the transcripts. Oh no, Mr. Opperman. It was an edited version. Oh my goodness. How's Victoria? But what happened was they put out an edited version. I put up there in the free section on Patreon thinking that it was the full version. I didn't find out until later on it was an edited version. Wait till you hear the full version. Okay. It's even worse. It's worse than the Durham Report. It's worse than the memo. It's worse than all that stuff. This is it. Finally. It's the day. Our day has come. Just like QAnon arriving on a white horse in a cloud. Okay. Oh, my goodness. So in Patreon, we have that. Plus, we did a show with, it's a really cool show. It's with this guy, this cop. Who is this guy? Let me see if I can find the notes. I got all these kind of medical problems lately, so I can barely move my arms and stuff. Jeremy Luberts. Okay. And he's from, I believe, Wisconsin or Minnesota, Mississippi, one of those states. Doesn't really matter. And it's that story about the guy who set up the booby trap and he lied in wait for the two people to come burglarize his home, and then he shot him. He left their dead bodies there for like overnight until the cops come knocking on his door. So anyway, I had that detective who prosecuted that case. That's a good show. I really enjoyed it. And then today I taped. I'm finally getting back in the routine of taping stuff. I had a couple flakes this week. You know, a couple of guests flaked out on me. But what are you going to do? Some of it's my fault, too. Another one today I taped with a fellow named J.J. Vance, who has a podcast, and we talked about the Idaho 4 murders. We talked about that with him. Taping with Kristen Cipollini. You might remember him. He's an organized crime fellow, book writer. He writes books, and he has a film came out. Just produced a film. And it's about the drugs. I forget what it's called. He sent me a screener. I'm going to watch the screener this week. I'm going to tape with him on Sunday. We'll have that for you. Coming up next week. Really big shoe. So that's all the content in Patreon. There was an issue, too, with Patreon where they could not bill all of the Patreon subscribers. That it was getting a lot of orders came declined. So if you want to be a member of Patreon, and for some reason this month that we weren't able to bill you, contact me and we'll get that done. You got to email me at oppermanreport@gmail.com and we'll work that out. I have to do there's some kind of process I have to go through. They're saying what I should do is contact each person who was declined, and oh my God. Good luck with that. Okay, I can't see that happening. But let's hope that happens someday. Let's see what happens there. Coming up tonight after this will be Jen Thomas Bidwell, an update on her son, Teron Evans. This is after she received some reports and videos and stuff like that again, are anomalous and have a lot of discrepancies in them and stuff like that. So we have Jen Thomas Bidwell about her son. She's a Black Lives Matter activist and talking about the suspicious death ruled a suicide of her son, Teron Evans. I really encourage you just to go to TikTok and Facebook and Instagram and follow Jen Thomas Bidwell, or just, if you search for Teron Evans, Terron Evans, or Jen Thomas Bidwell, and find her content. This grieving mother puts out about 10 TikToks a day. There's nothing going to stop this woman from getting this story out. And I really think we all need to get behind her and support her, because no one else is, as usual. No one else is. All you people out there who think that, if we could somehow attack Ed Opperman and destroy my life and harass me and stalk me and do all the things you do to me, this will be a victory. Really, the people you're hurting are people like people who have no voice to stand up against the system. Those are the real people that you're hurting. Innocent people. All the people around me that you're harassing and stalking, they're all innocent people. No matter how much you hate me or jealous of me or whatever your pathetic life is, problem with me, nothing in your life is going to change. Just because you annoy me for a little bit. After that, we have Tom B. Dean Coral, the Candyman Killer. Taped this a while ago. And for some reason, it's kind of got lost in the shuffle. Taped this back in May of 2023. I don't know what happened. I don't even remember taping this show. Who knows? Yeah, who knows what's on there, But let's hope it's good. It's coming up tonight. It's going to be playing tonight after this. Okay, that's what's going on there. If you have any suggestions for guests, shoot me an email at oppermanreport@gmail.com. Who's this guy bugging me in the middle of the show? Hey, it just never fails. People, I'm a big fan. Okay. If you have guest suggestions, or something like that, of a good guest, not someone who's just Ed, I just heard this guy on some stupid YouTuber, some stupid I don't want to interview podcasters. I don't want to interview YouTubers. If they're an author of a book, they're a well-known person, they're a historical figure, there's someone that I would recognize their name, or someone who has had, they need an advocate for them, some type of a survivor or a victim of police brutality or some type of abuse. I'd love to help people, but I'm not interested in people, Ed, so-and-so does this podcast, and you and him would have this great rapport, and you'd chat back and forth, and it would be so much fun. I'm not looking for that, okay? Because trust me, I'm not going to chat back and forth with some guy I don't know, and have fun with him, trust me. It's just, and it has to be something I'm interested in, otherwise I just don't care, I can't fake it. I've been doing this way too long. It's going to be 10 years in September. I've been doing this show. Also, too, I had some volunteers helping me out making TikToks and Reels, but I couldn't keep track of who they are and where they are. So if you're out there, if you were one of those guys helping me with the TikToks and the Reels, get back to me, because we have to really amp that up again. I have a system in place now where we can get these things uploaded and systemically, and creating more accounts and stuff like that. All that stuff I want to do. Because it's really, really important the next few months that if you listen to the show, if you can retweet, if you can share the show, if you can, all that kind of stuff, because this is the month. These are the months where you make money. Holiday season. September, October, November, December. These are the whole year of radio. This is when you make money. So this is when we need to. I'm also doing appearances, too. I'm going to be doing some appearances. One of those big tabloids in England is interviewing me, and I think it's gonna be print though. I think it's gonna be a print thing. But I'm doing interviews. I'm doing appearances too. If anybody wants to get hold of me and do an interview, historic week, man. This was a historic week. You can't deny that. And I would like to really cover it. I got so many things going on this week I'd love to talk to you about. But we've got to talk about the indictment of President Mr. Trump for the attempted coup and all that entails. Before we get into that, I want to talk about this whole issue with Devon Archer. Okay? We've been hearing a lot in the past few weeks about Devon Archer. He's been described as Hunter Biden's business partner and best friend for years. And he was just convicted on some very serious charges. He's going to prison. As a matter of fact, the judge in his case is Ronnie Abrams, who is a federal judge. She's the sister of Dan Abrams from Court TV, that Dan Abrams, and also Elliot Abrams from the notorious political Democrat. Comes from a very influential family. She was the judge in my case, the Epstein case, the one that you know about, the one that I'm able to talk about partially. As a matter of fact, we got a new one developing, and I'm going to be a witness in another one. So there's a lot going on there too as well. But that's one that's in the public. So she was the judge in this case here for Devon Archer. So the Republicans have this committee, and they've been trying to get Devon Archer to come before this committee and testify. And he's been ducking them. Okay? Right at the last minute, he says, well, I can't do it. His lawyer's been negotiating with him back and forth about what he's willing to talk about, what he's not willing to talk about. Now, when I heard this, and I heard this from the woman who wrote the book, I forget her name. She wrote the book about the laptop from hell. That's a very unbiased book, right? She's a Fox News contributor. She wrote this book, The Laptop from Hell. Hunter Biden, no experience. Hunter Biden gets a job in his energy company advising them on energy when he has no experience on energy, getting $85,000 a month. And then we got the emails talking about the big guy. Right? All this, I'm doing no Sean Hannity if you don't know what I'm doing there. Okay? And who coined the phrase, the laptop.
You may have heard about People's Postcode Lottery and often wondered, how does it work? Playing is simple. You sign up for a monthly subscription of £12, guaranteeing you entry into every draw, and your ticket is your postcode. Prizes are won every day, including Millionaire Street, where one lucky postcode wins a share of £1 million every Saturday. Also, at the end of the month, players in one postcode area win a share of a minimum of £3.2 million. A minimum of 33% of every ticket goes to charities and good causes across Great Britain and beyond, with a staggering £1.1 billion raised so far. So, for a chance to win, sign up before midnight on the 24th of August to play in the September draws, and the next winning postcode could be yours. PPL managed lotteries on behalf of good causes, 18 plus, conditions apply. Play responsibly. Not available in Northern Ireland.
Top from hell. So they've been talking about Devon Archer, and she's been talking to Devon. It appears that she's talks to Devon Archer behind the scenes. Okay, and she's like releasing little things here with her own spin on matters. Because according to her, he was going to come out and he was going to talk about 20 phone calls where Joe Biden, as vice president, got on the phone with business associates of his son, Hunter Biden, when all along he's been claiming that he had no interest in Hunter Biden's business deals, and he really didn't know anything about him. He had nothing to do with it. They got him, right? Because here Devon Archer is going to come in and testify and tell me firsthand information, right? Now I'm thinking Devon Archer is going to come in and talk. The guy's on his way to prison. Any guy in their right mind would plead the fifth before Congress. You wouldn't agree to testify because you're jeopardizing yourself. So I didn't think he was going to testify at all. The other thing, the big claim was that he knew about two $5 million payments, one to Joe Biden and one to Hunter Biden. This is what the House Republicans have been telling you all along, with a straight face. They've been saying this. Okay. He canceled last week, and then on Saturday or Sunday, I forget what it was, the Department of Justice sent a letter to his judge saying, "Hey, when is Devon Archer going to surrender or then start serving his sentence?" So, of course, the right-wing media, these dishonest hacks, started publicizing the letter, describing it that the Biden administration is threatening to arrest Devon Archer before he testifies before them, and he's going to reveal all this stuff about the phone calls, the 20 phone calls. He's going to reveal all this stuff about the two $5 million payments, all this stuff. So, turns out his own attorney, who's a very competent attorney, you could read the whole transcripts here yourself. Who was this attorney here? Let me see if I can pull up his name real quick. I'm very impressed with him. It's not Mr. Goldman, is it? Could be. You might, Robert, you might. Let's see here. Schwartz, Mr. Schwartz. Very, very competent attorney. They're very impressed with him. Okay, who's advising Devon Archer throughout this, and he's the one who negotiated with the these Republicans here, right? We've learned a lot too, by the way. Yeah, Mr. Schwartz is the fellow. So they're going to have all this great dirt going to come out this week, and they claimed that the DOJ was threatening to arrest Devon Archer to prevent him from testifying before the committee. Well, Mr. Schwartz presented a letter saying, no, we don't interpret this letter as saying that at all. And in fact, it's undisputable that it's not a threat of an arrest because he's already been arrested. He went to trial. He was convicted. And he was sentenced. And now he's awaiting time to turn himself in, surrender himself to serve his time. Which, I think we would all agree that, if you've been convicted of a crime, sooner or later you got to surrender yourself and start serving your sentence, right? Now, I'm not saying that there isn't some kind of behind-the-scenes negotiations going on here. I'm sure there is. Mr. Archer is a very savvy guy, very well-educated, international business dealings with people like Hunter Biden and with people like John Kerry's son. Let me see if I can pull that up, if I can find it. I forget the guy's Kerry's first name. Let's see. See, because people forget. Oh, it doesn't even come up. Okay, because people forget that John Kerry's son was first the partner with this fellow Archer. He was the first partner with Archer before Hunter Biden. Okay, did I just screw up my mic, my audio? Okay, that seems okay. Okay. So all these Republicans came out. Oh, they're threatening to arrest Devon Archer before he testifies. Boebert comes out. Marjorie Taylor Greene comes out. Matt Gaetz. They're all putting these statements out. They're threatening to arrest. He's already been arrested. He's in the surrender stage, okay? And the timing of that letter, I agree, is suspicious. And it is possible, once you've been convicted, to negotiate with the Department of Corrections, if you're a savvy guy, to lobby with the Department of Corrections and the Bureau of Prisons to have easier time than the average guy going into prison. Okay, when you contact people who were the former heads of the Department of Corrections or the former head of the Bureau of Prisons, and they know people who work there, and they put in a good word for you, and then, maybe a couple of meals and dinners and plane tickets exchange hands, and you find yourself doing a much easier time than Michael Cohen did. Okay, for instance. Okay, he wasn't treated all that well during his sentencing. Serving his sentence. So there you have. But what happens is when Mr. Archer finally shows up and he testified on Monday, and the Republicans put out a transcript and edited it. It turns out to be an edited transcript of the fellow's testimony here, and there's a lot of problems here because he kind of blows up in their face. First of all, the whole thing, all this time, Mr. Hannity has been talking about the laptop, the no experience Hunter Biden gets a job with Burisma there for $85,000, has no experience in the energy business, and here he is consulting with the energy business, right? Well, Mr. Archer starts out. He says, "What did you do there? With these energy companies?" He goes, "Oh, well, my job was to raise money, but we had this big project where we bought these drilling tools from Texas, and then we had to ship them over land and over sea into the Eastern Europe. And and by the way, if you don't know anything about that type, even in the year 2023, when you're trying to ship stuff like that, you have a business deal involved overseas and involves shipping and docks and unions. There's all kind of shenanigans going on. Things get stolen. Unions hold up the shipment. You got to pay off union guys. All kinds of stuff happens. Okay, the paperwork gets lost. You got to pay some guy off. You need savvy business guys handling these deals. Guys with some juice. Guys with some pull. And he starts going in to describe some of the actual energy type work he did. We don't want to hear about that, Mr. Archer. Let's move on. Okay, they don't want to hear about what he really did with energy. No, they don't want to hear about that at all. By the way, too, it's kind of interesting. One of the attorneys that's mentioned in this transcript, I know the guy. So, but not well enough to call him up and say, "Hey, what can you tell me?" We get him on the show and stuff like that. But I've had business dealings with him back in New York. He's a New Jersey attorney. Oh, I don't want to give too much. People figure out who he is. And the other thing, he also mentions John Kerry's son. Okay? See, because John Kerry, who was the Secretary of State at the time, his son was doing the exact same thing that Hunter Biden was doing. He was profiting off the name of the last name Kerry. That he had contacts in Washington, D.C. His father was the Secretary of State. Okay? Just like Hunter Biden was. But they don't want to hear about John Kerry's son. Oh, no. See, because John Kerry, because they want to go after Joe Biden. John Kerry is still doing business. He's still spreading money around with these guys. They want him nice and happy. They don't want to piss off John Kerry because they've got side deals with Kerry. Okay, because this is all about lobbying. Favors and influence peddling. Okay, this is what this is all about. Okay, so first of all, there's that. They don't want to hear about what they were really doing for energy. They don't want to hear what was about John Kerry, what he was doing. Then it turns out that how do they have this information? How do they have these emails? Because, in the beginning, there's some bickering back and forth between the Democrats who were presented nothing in advance. They didn't have the Republicans claim they have Hunter Biden's hard drive. One more time. The Republicans on this committee claim they are in possession of a copy, at least, of Hunter Biden's hard drive. Okay? So all of this innuendo and allegation and murmuring and whispering that there's child porn on these hard drives has now been dismissed. Because if there was, then the whole Republican Congress would be in possession of child pornography, which they probably are. Okay, but not Hunter Biden's child pornography. Hunter Biden may have child pornography, may not, but if he does, he has it stashed somewhere that has not been found on his hard drive, or during this chain of custody on this hard drive with Carrick and Giuliani and all these characters and Bannon. that whatever deep blackmail material they had over Hunter has been removed from this version that is now in possession. So there is no prosecutable type of material on this hard drive. That we can conclude 100% today. May have to go over time because I really do want to get into the whole stuff with the historic indictment. One of the other huge things that we've been hearing for the past, 5 years, man, what has it been? That the prosecutor in Ukraine was investigating Berezhnov, and Hunter Biden was on their board of directors getting paid $85,000 a month, and that Hunter Biden was able to call his father, and his father got Shokin, the prosecutor, removed from office. According to Devon Archer, the Republican star witness, he says, no, we didn't want Shokin fired. Shokin was under control. Okay. All right. We had Shokin. Well, we wanted to keep Shokin. We didn't want to lose Shokin. We wanted Shokin. So all this time, this whole thing about Hunter Biden, Joe Biden, getting Shokin fired on behalf of his son in Berezhnov, it was the exact opposite. They didn't want this guy fired. So they threw that away too as well. That's gone forever. Okay. What did Hunter Biden do for Berezhnov to be put on the board? Well, Devon Archer, John Kerry Jr., John Kerry's son, and Hunter Biden were raising money. They were raising money from investors that were going into the company, not taking money out of the company. Okay, they weren't sitting back doing nothing, they're just taking money from the company. They were bringing investors into the company. And they have all the deposits. They have the names of the companies. They've got all this information. And by the way, too, if someone wants to argue with me, not what you heard on Hannity, not what you heard Lauren Boebert say, not what you heard Matt Gaetz say, go to the transcript at the Opperman Report Patreon. It's free, okay? You don't have to say, I'm going to go pay the Patreon. I don't want to pay Patreon. It's free, okay? And read the transcript yourself, and then tell me. Tell me what you find. Tell me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'll read it too. If I'm wrong, I'll apologize if I'm wrong. I got no dog in this fight, What else did Hunter Biden bring to the table? He brought the brand, the Biden name. Okay, he played his influence off his father being in government, and helped bring in a group of government affairs and lobbying experts to handle interactions with U.S. government agencies. Like he had some guy who was former Homeland Security, I think it was, to come in there and help with some matters too as well. So it was just all, and plus a lot of what Hunter Biden did was direct them to lobbying firms in D.C. They were just lobbying, which these congressmen are complaining about. By the way, too, they mentioned the lobbying firm he directed people to. They didn't start saying, "Oh, let's bring them in here and let's subpoena them to come in here and say what they're up to." No, because they're getting the benefits from those lobbying companies themselves. Okay, they're doing business with these people as well. They're doing business with the same people. Okay. And don't start telling me, man, that I'm some kind of Biden supporter or I'm some kind of Democrat or not. I am not a Democrat. I'm not a Biden supporter. I'm reporting to you what the freaking transcripts say. You can read it yourself. Okay? I'm not lying to you and saying that there's a threat to arrest somebody. That's a lie. I'm not lying to you and saying that there's the 20 phone calls that they talk about, right? There were 20 phone calls. Yeah, Devon Archer testifies, there was about 20 speakerphone phone calls. He said, but first of all, you got to understand, Hunter talked to his father every night. They talked every night, and they would talk about fishing. They would talk about the weather, small talk. Different things to visit, while in these different countries they were in. They were in Dubai, they were in, Ukraine, all this stuff. Those were the conversations. Occasionally, he would be at a dinner with business associates, and he would put his father on speakerphone, okay? Just like, if you're at a table of a bunch of girls and you get on the phone with P. Diddy, okay, or Snoop Dogg, okay, and you put him on the speakerphone to talk in front of these, to impress these girls, just like Trump did with the top secret documents. I was trying to impress them. That we have that on recording. So yeah, Hunter Biden was trying to impress these Ukrainian business associates and people involved with these deals that, yeah, he had access to his father. He talked to his father every day. Hey, look at me on the phone with my father. Okay. But when it came back to, did, Biden do any kind of favors for Hunter Biden, the answer comes back over and over by the Republican star witness that supposedly was being arrested to silence him from this testimony. He said, no, we got nothing. We tried. Even there was a trip that his father was taken to Ukraine. And they said, they were like, well, let's try and make it look like, this is going to be good for us, but we really don't know what he's going to do when he gets here. We have no control over any of that. So, all that stuff was way over Hunter Biden's pay grade. He was bilking these connections. He was able to raise money for these people. He was able to put them in contact with lobbyists. All this stuff. Now, also, by the way, too, there was another investigation in 2020. Okay, well, let me read this whole thing to you, because when I copied and pasted this thing, it didn't come out so good. The Senate Committee on Homeland Security and Government Affairs and the Senate Finance Committee, which were then under Chairman Johnson and Chairman Grassley, Republican chairman, conducted an extensive investigation in an effort to show some connection between Hunter Biden's work on behalf of Burisma. So there's already been a thorough investigation of this, and Vice President's role Biden in carrying out official U.S. policy in Ukraine. As part of that investigation, there were 46 subpoenas issued, 50 hours of transcribed interviews of 10 witnesses, reviews of tens of thousands of something. I got cut off. Okay. All right. And they concluded Joe Biden did nothing wrong. I think Joe Biden is a crook. Okay. I think he's corrupt. I think he's a pervert. Okay. I think we have more evidence of that. The stolen diary of his daughter. Just the way his son turned out as such the story of Lucy Flores. I have a friend in Nevada who described the exact same kind of contact that Lucy Flores described with Joe Biden. But she says, but she wasn't offended by it, is what she said. Okay. We see these pictures of him with little kids. It's all very bizarre. It's all very disturbing. Okay. That's enough for me. But when we try and come up with all this stuff and when we want to overlook John Kerry and just pin it all on Joe Biden, that's just political folly. How's that for an Opperman Report term for you there? It's all just folly. Okay. And I don't like folly. I want no part of folly. Okay. All right, so what's the other great big thing this week with historic indictment of Mr. Trump? Well, I've read the entire indictment, okay, once again. I'm one of these foolish guys who reads the whole thing, okay, and then comes here and talks to you about it. And by the way, too, I didn't even get into like the last hour of the transcript where the Democrats were. And by the way, too, the Democrats we can't even authenticate any of these emails and stuff they're talking about now because the Democrats have nothing. Even Devon Archer says I can't authenticate any of this stuff. So we don't even know. But I read the whole indictment, and I think Mr. Trump's in big trouble. I think he's going to be convicted on this. I think he's going to serve time for contempt. I think he's going to be jailed for contempt prior to the convictions of these cases. I even think that we may see him jailed, on trial, elected president, and then pardons himself and does away with the investigation. That's a possibility. That he could get in office, being that we all know he's guilty of all these crimes. Interesting there was a release of Rudy Giuliani has a civil suit against him by his former assistant for sexual abuse and harassment. And she released a transcript of him where he's calling her, "Hey, big tits. Hey, big tits, get over here. These tits belong to me. I possess these tits. I own these tits." Really crude stuff, for even for Rudy, And this was released the same day that Trump's on his motorcade going to be arrested for an attempted coup. Now, some things that disturb me and some things that I think we're going to see. One is that Mr. Jack Smith comes out in a press conference and he says, first of all, the Capitol Hill police did a great job and they were heroes and all this. They were heroes and all this. So he's giving them a pass, okay, which is interesting. I don't know. I don't see how he can legitimately give Capitol Hill police a pass. Trump himself tweeted out during this violent insurrection that they are on our side. We see videos of people when they're first breaching the Capitol and they're coming through that window. The first few people to come through that window come in. They see, or off camera, they see something off camera that prompts them to put their hands up in an "I'm unarmed" surrender. Okay? Then the second guy, third guy, fourth guy comes in, and they all look over to the same section that's off camera. They put their hands up, and then suddenly they all kind of just put their hands down, and more people start coming in. There's no more putting their hands up. Whoever's off camera there had to know where the cameras were pointing. They had to be someone that the rioters, insurrectionists, the coup, the thugs coming in those windows would see and put their hands up in surrender. I would guess there would be some type of Capitol Hill police. We also see video of Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi in negotiations on the phone where they're saying, the Capitol Hill police are telling us it's going to take 3 days to clear the building. Is that possible? No. We can clear the building in a few hours. Okay, so again, Capitol Hill police. Sergeant at Arms was fired that night. Okay, so he was in on it too. Liebengood, this suicide, the first death in all this, Liebengood. His father was the sergeant at arms. He went into business with Stone and Manafort. Okay, he was partners with Stone and Manafort. His son was the first cop to commit suicide that day. Okay, so clearly there's more to Capitol Hill police involvement in all this. There's also video of the QAnon shaman, of him being escorted in and a door being by several cops and a door being unlocked for him. Of course, we also see Capitol Hill police waving people in and all this kind of stuff like that. So the Capitol Hill police were, in my opinion, part of this insurrection. They were part of this coup attempt. So were people, too, like General Flynn's brother, who was this general in charge of, I think, the National Guard or something like that, but he was part of the chain of command of when they could bring in National Guard troops and bring in troops and reinforcements and stuff. No talk about him yet, right? So we don't see anything with that. So there seems to be, they're picking and choosing who they're going to prosecute. Now, who have they prosecuted so far? They've prosecuted 1,000 street thugs, criminals, the guys who actually did the hillbillies, the rednecks and stuff like that, the guys who actually did the kicking in the windows and the fighting with the cops. They've identified, arrested, and prosecuted roughly 1,000 of them. So that removes this whole the street thug element to this that Trump no longer has. As a matter of fact, when he had this indictment here, very few supporters showed up at all. One of the few that did show up was Maurice Simonet, a friend of our show. Okay. But Mr. Blacks for Trump, who I interviewed. Maurice Simonet, you can look up that interview. Very fascinating guy. Maurice Simonet, who's the fellow who holds up the sign Blacks for Trump. They call him Michael, the black guy. They call him that too. He has several names. Neither Michael nor Maurice is his real name. He was part of the Yahweh Ben Yahweh cult in Miami that murdered 13 people. He was acquitted of his charges of trying to decapitate a man, cut a man's head off with a dull machete. He was successful in avoiding those conviction. on those charges. I interviewed him. Very interesting fellow, and very interesting opinions. Half out of his mind, if you ask me. If anybody's asking me these days. But I'm half out of my mind, too. Okay. So, but the laptop. Okay. We're talking about historic indictment now. So when they gets indicted, right? They publish the indictment. I put it up right away on the Opperman Report, Patreon, unedited. Mr. Trump, he's got this lawyer, John Lorio, who he's putting out there. His lawyer, by the way, he's the lead counsel in the Mar-a-Lago case. And now he's the lead counsel listing this indictment on the coup. Now, this guy is on the news 20 times on all the talk shows. This is the same guy that's going to go back to the judge in Florida, in Mar-a-Lago, and tell her, Your Honor, I've been too busy to get my top secret clearance. I've been too busy to go over this. The discovery is overwhelming, Your Honor. There's 800,000 pages. The judge is going to say to him, Mr. Lorio, I saw you with my own eyes on 10 talk shows. Why weren't you spending that time preparing for this case? So that's not going to help. In a real courtroom, that's what would happen. Who knows what's going to happen here? Because it turns out that Judge Cannon, she received a bunch of money and gifts and vacations and stuff like that from the Federalist Society, too, as well. We'll be getting into that in the future. Got a lot of stuff I'm working on, by the way. I got this great thing about Gary Coleman that I'm working on. Maybe we'll have some time to talk about that tonight. And even a couple weeks ago, I wanted to tell you about that story about the son of the UN. The guy, his father worked at the UN, and his mother was a psychiatrist. He killed both his parents, and he was talking about how he was molested and trafficked as a child, and he believed that his parents received benefit from his being trafficked. That's an incredible story. I'd love to talk about that. Part of the problem is, and even this Gary Coleman, I got to kind of be careful what I talk about right now because of things I'm involved in, both as a witness and as a private investigator and in court. I know people are watching this. They're listening to everything I do, looking for dirt they can come up on me. Oh, look at me, he's a crazy man talking about Gary Coleman. But that Gary Coleman 911 tape when Gary Coleman died. And by the way, I know people around Gary Coleman. I know that was very close to some people who were friendly with Gary Coleman. But it was like a historic indictment, Mr. Donald Trump. Looks like Mr. Smith is going to be giving a pass to the Capitol Hill police. When the indictment comes out, Mr. Trump's first line of defense is, well, I have a right to free speech. Mr. Lorio goes, and by the way, he was being advised by a bunch of crackpot crazy attorneys. Okay? A bunch of whack jobs are giving him advice, and he was relying on counsel with these knuckleheads. Like one in particular, is yelling out, "Hey, big tits!" Of course, Lorio doesn't say all of that, but that's what happened, though. Okay, we had them all identified. I was identifying them as I was reading it along. This is number one's Rudy. Number two is Sidney Powell. I forget. I think number three was Eastman. I mean, we have them all identified now. But here's the problem. Look at the brilliance of the prosecution in this case. They're like fly fishermen, like expert champion fly fishermen, throwing out that hook, throwing out that lure and that bait, and they name 6 unindicted co-conspirators. And what's Trump's first defense? It's not my fault. I was relying on these 6 guys. Just happens to be the same 6 guys. Now, the 6 guys sitting at home saying, well, I haven't been indicted yet. I haven't been sent a target letter yet, which also means they're not in negotiation with Smith yet. But now they start hearing their friend, Mr. Trump, basically pointing his finger at them saying, hey, I didn't do anything. I was relying on them and what they advised me and what they told me. Now, if I'm sitting at home, even if I'm Rudy and I'm, staring at some big tits, okay, and I'm drinking my scotch, okay, I'm going to say, hold on, let me put down this glass here for a second. Okay, and turn the TV up. Sounds like my good friend here I was advising is throwing me under the bus here. Maybe I should hop on, I should race these other 5 guys down to Mr. Jack Smith's office and make a deal. Maybe I should be the first one to make a deal. That's what I think I should do. And that's what they should do. Seems like the plan is, though, that they all know they're going to get convicted. And the plan is get Trump in there, man, by hook or by crook. He's got. We know from talking to people like Berge, from talking to Everett Stern, who was on my show recently, that they've got files on everyone. They got blackmail dirt on everyone. Patrick Byrne was just bragging about having blackmail dirt on Jack Smith. So when the judge comes out in open court and says, Mr. Trump, the most important thing about being out on bail is not to get arrested again, sir. Okay, you want to be careful about that. And witness tampering and jury tampering, these are arrestable offenses. So you don't want to do that. Very rare for a defendant to be admonished like that by the judge, because I'm sure they're digging up dirt on the judge too, and the judge knows this. Because when people are sniffing around you. Okay? I know when people are sniffing around me. I know what I'm doing. And these people certainly are just as savvy as me, every bit. Hopefully. And then get this too. He's got sitting in the courtroom Everett Cochran, who was kicked off the case in a Mar-a-Lago case because he was declared a fraud. The fraud crime. They pierced the attorney-client privilege due to the fraud crime thing. Okay, I'm turning it to Joe Biden. He had to turn over all his attorney-client notes and transcripts to the prosecution. And now this guy's sitting there somehow still on Trump's legal team in this other case. It's just, this is so crazy on so many levels. I don't even know where to start, where to begin, where to end. So all this stuff about people saying that, they can't convict him now on free. It's not Hillary Clinton challenged the election. These other people, Al Gore questioned the election results. None of them were indicted. Well, none of them actually, inspired a coup either. By the way, too, I believe an upcoming charge will be inciting violence, too. Okay? Will be coming up against all these fellows here, against Giuliani, against Eastman, against, I think even the little bimbo that Trump Jr. is dating, that woman there. I think that she's going to be charged with inciting a riot, too. And I listened to all that stuff very carefully. They were using hypnotic suggestions, saying fight, 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 fight. The word fight was used 100 times to incite this crowd to fight. Giuliani said we're going to use litigation by combat, trial by combat. Trump said you got to fight, otherwise we'll never win if you don't fight. Trust me, incitement to riot, inciting violence is going to be an upcoming charge against these people around Trump. They got to get charged in separate. They're going to get charged in separate court cases, just not to slow down the Trump case here. So incitement to riots coming up with that too. Now the thing is, when he says, "Well, you can't now, you're not allowed to question election results, otherwise you get arrested." If you continue reading the charges, it goes into a little step by step how Trump knew. He knew that that he lost, over and over, and that even Rudy knew he lost, and even these other people knew. So this idea that he thought that he didn't lose, I think that's been defeated. Now, you got these really wild guys who say that Biden's wearing a mask and, when Trump's really still in power and stuff like that. And they're saying, well, this is all a big trick now is that now Trump has access to discovery. Now he can prove that he really won. Well, okay, if they could have proved he really won in the Fox case against the voting machine company. right? And there's one coming up too, Smartmatic. They're going to lose that one too as well. So if that was the case, they could have used those cases to prove he won, okay? But no, they couldn't. They settled those cases because they know they can't prove that he won. And these crazy theories that he won, they're just crazy. But what he did was, instead, he came up with this scheme to come up with phony electors, to come up with counterfeit electors, and say that these are people that are the real electors in these 7 states. Now, that's one of the charges in this case, okay? There's no way he's going to beat that charge, okay? Because, first of all, we have some people like Mike McDonald from Nevada who's gone in and testified before the grand jury. He went in there and he told them what happened. So we know all these states here. That's a whole nother thing coming up, too. I believe that a lot of people are going to get rounded up here. I believe a bunch of congressmen are going to get rounded up. And I believe these phony electors are going to be arrested, too, as well. The ones that don't make deals. Okay? Step 1. Arrest the thugs that were there that day. So now Trump doesn't have the street muscle to intimidate these courts and to intimidate these local jurisdictions. Step 2, indict Trump. Name the co-conspirators. See how many of them are going to come in and flip. Step 3, start charging co-conspirators. Charge them with the other thing, like inciting a riot. That kind of stuff, too. That's out there, man. Step 3, go after these fake electors. And step 4, go after these congressmen. I mean, not in that order, but they're going to go after all these guys. Trust me, man. Okay, this ain't going to end with Trump. This is historic in our lifetimes to see this. There was an attempted coup. Okay? People say it now, they say it openly. They got to deal with it legally. We can't have firing squads here in the United States of America. Because you know why we can't? Because that'll hurt our credit rating abroad. Okay? We'll look unstable. It'll cause the oil prices to go up. They don't want to hurt the economy. They don't want to disturb the economy. But they can't allow these loose cannons to be running around Mr. Big Tits, Giuliani, and Kerrick. And by the way, why wasn't Kerrick might have been named too, because they talk about an agent of Giuliani. That's probably Kerrick. And Kerrick, by the way, turned over all his notes and all his reports and stuff too. Kerrick is not going to do time for Trump and Giuliani. Bernard Kerrick, the former police commissioner, the former Department of Corrections commissioner of New York. This is the most corrupt guy you ever meet in your life. His best friend was pimping out his girlfriend for $8,000 a day. On September 11th, when Bernie Kerik was police commissioner, and he whispers in Rudy's ear saying, let's not go there. Let's not go to Building 7 where the command center is. Let's not go there. Let's go over here. Okay? His best friend, the guy, his best man at his wedding, the guy that paid for his wedding, was pimping out his own girlfriend. Okay? To very successful people. Guy with intelligence connections, methamphetamine addiction. They did a whole... Lawrence Ray. I talked to the guy. Okay? They did a whole Netflix series about the guy. Check it out. I think it's called Stolen Innocence. A.J. Weberman knew the guy. Okay? In fact, the cops raided A.J.'s house thinking that they were hiding the guy. Okay? A lot goes on here at the Opperman Report. Okay? A lot goes on here, guys. We're not just sitting around doing nothing. All right? Guys, I just hurt I think I just pulled another muscle. Zook. Which will be the most historic of all? Who knows? The indictment of Ed Opperman. I'm going to bring that because everyone's coming down with me. If they come after me, everyone comes down with me. I have so much more I could be talking about this thing, but we've only got about 5 minutes left. But now that's what's going on with this historic indictment of Trump. But for some reason, man, there's some kind of deal in the background. They're not going after the Hill cops. And it doesn't seem like they're going after Flynn's brother or Flynn. I guess the military is saying, hey, don't touch our guys. And the cops are saying, hey, don't touch our guys. But they're going after Kerik and Rudy for sure, and Eastman, that whole crew. Sidney Powell. By the way, too, when I've been talking about Sidney Powell the first day I saw her on TV. I started talking about her, and I was contacted by some folks that says, Ed, I know people from Sidney Powell. They in her office. These people worked with Sidney Powell. She's a witch. And so, Ed, you got to talk to these people. So I contacted them. I talked to them. Yeah, people around her believe she does witchcraft, that she's some kind of a witch. I don't know what to tell you with that. These are people. I checked them out. They worked with her. This is what they say. People around Lynn Wood, man, talked about that. He claimed he was Jesus Christ. They had recordings of him claiming he was Jesus Christ. The second coming of Jesus, he said he was. So, there's a crazy bunch of lunatics, man, that made their way into the highest places of power. And I got to tell you, man, I'm a little more comfortable with, maybe the Biden stealing a few million. Okay, than I am with this bunch. Okay, because if John Kerry could be stealing the same amount of money and no one's talking about him, it can't be that big a deal, right? Because he's paying off the right people. And my own, anyway, we can get all into that in a future date. Okay, I hope you enjoyed tonight's show. And I hope you realize that I do the work, guys. I read the indictments. I read this whole transcript. The transcript was 140 pages. The indictment was like 45 pages. I sit back and I read this stuff, man, and then I come back and I report to you what my estimation of it is. If you disagree with me, go back and read the actual transcript. Go back and read the actual indictment and come back and disagree with me. Don't come back to me and recite what Sean Hannity's told you or what this woman who wrote this Laptop from Hell book says to you. Read it yourself and come back to me and tell me what I've said is wrong. Don't tell me what these other people are lying to you, man. Because clearly they're lying to you. Well, what do you want from me, man? So I do the work for you, and I expect some support, man, for the work I'm doing. I don't work for free. We got killed this month on Patreon. There's some kind of issue with payments being declined. If your payment was declined, please come back and resubscribe. We've had a few resubscriptions here. But if you don't support the show, come back and support the show, man. We need the support to keep this going. A very rough month ahead of me. But the next few months, if you want to advertise now, is a great time to advertise because we can get on a bunch of stations if we want to. But also to share the show, retweet it, all that kind of stuff as much as you can because these are the big months with advertising as far as the podcast advertising money goes. And so after this, we're going to be doing a Jen Bidwell about her son Teron Evans. Okay, a little joke from our comedian friend who's a comedy writer and a playwright and stuff like that. Good old Ed from the chat room says, I heard Trump has an indictment loyalty card, which is a great line. Okay, and I take my hat off to you one more time, man. Okay, great line. Okay, Trump is a frequent flyer miles he gets from these indictments. By the way, too, man, the Atlanta, Georgia indictment is right around the corner. They have orange barricades up in front of the courthouse, and they've just shut down, starting Monday, they're shutting down the street in front of the courthouse there. There's some, which I don't know how this quite times with the grand jury over there. A lot of this seems to be, some people claim it's showboating by the prosecutor down there and that there's really a nothing burger going on. I don't know, but they are shutting down the street. They do have orange barricades up. But it doesn't seem like the grand jury is scheduled to be returning this week. So I don't know what's going on with that. But doing the best I can for you guys. I work my heart and soul out for this show. And we need your support. If you want to go to oppermanreport.com and make a donation, we would appreciate that. There's a donate button there too as well. PayPal is oppermanreport@gmail.com. And just go to PayPal and send me $10 or $20, $5, man. Just so we can get through the next couple of months. I gotta admit, I did a lot of traveling the past month. I spent 30 days helping my daughter get set up and settled. So I spent a lot of money the past couple of months, guys. And so we could really use your support this time. Okay, well, all these other crackpots, man, got money pouring on their head, man. and all these disinfo characters, man, out there, even guys who you think are on your side. And then we find out, what's really going on with them, that they're got all kind of shady stuff going on, man. So, really need your support. Coming up next will be Jen Bidwell, the mother of her son there, Teron Evans. No, that won't be coming up. That'll be a second show. Coming up next will be the show about this Dean Coral, the Candyman killer. All right, guys, good night. Thank you so much. Oh, I got a whole thing coming up I'm going to be doing about Gary Coleman. Okay. In the meantime, you can go, and if I forget, remind me, Just the way to remind me, send me an email at oppermanreport@gmail.com. Okay. All the messages, man, we need to cut that down, okay? I'll make it go. All right, guys, good night.